Welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. Our theme for 2025 is the future of work. Meaning is the new money. In a world shaped by rapid innovation and constant change, the pursuit of purpose and impact has never been more important. I'm Dr. John Dentico, your host, bringing over 30 years of experience in leadership, strategic thinking, and purpose-driven innovation. Here, we tackle the pressing challenges of our time, from the rise of artificial intelligence to the growing need for meaning in the workplace. Together, we'll uncover how leaders can ethically integrate AI to enhance decision-making and keep humanity at the heart of their organizations. Remember, amidst all the technological advancements, in the end, it's always about the people. This podcast is your resource for actionable tools, thought-provoking discussions, and inspiring stories. It's time to go beyond leadership development and focus on leadership impact, creating workplaces where people thrive, innovation flourishes, and meaning truly becomes the new currency. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Now, let's throttle up and dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. It's me again, Dr. John Dentico. With me today is Ravi R, MD, TED speaker, author, coach, and transformational expert, dedicated to helping high-achieving individuals master inner silence and unlock their full potential. As the CEO of Focal Point, Iyer Clinic, and Active Power, Inc., he works with C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, celebrities, and athletes, guiding them through rapid mindset shifts that lead to greater clarity, purpose, and success. Dr. Iyer's acclaimed programs, including the Art of Living Leadership and the Cognitive Alignment Workshop, empower individuals to break free from limiting beliefs and transition from a consumer mindset to a creator's perspective, allowing them to take decisive action and free themselves from mental clutter. As president of the Western Town Center Toastmasters Club, Dr. Iyer is a skilled communicator who inspires audiences with actionable insights on mental clarity, work-life balance, and aligning life with core values. His mission through Iyer Focal Point is to help people discover the capacity to create life they truly desire. With a powerful blend of science, leadership, and personal development, Dr. Iyer helps people shift their awareness of self-identity, embrace change, and achieve deeper fulfillment in both their personal and professional lives. I'm truly pleased to have him with me here today. How are you, Dr. Iyer?
Good morning, John.
Good to see you. Ravi, tell me where you grew up and some of the influence that you had in your early personal life.
I was born in Bombay, but I grew up in an eastern town in India, which is very similar to Pittsburgh. It's a steel town situated in a valley surrounded by iron ore and other mineral-rich hills, which serve as the conduit for the materials used for manufacture. So the two big companies there was a Tata Iron and Steel Company, TISCO, and the Tata Engineering and Locomotive Company, Telco. My father was a metallurgist in Telco, and we lived in the company quarters, grew up and went to the local mission school at that time. The growing up in India, it's a very idyllic existence that I had. Grew up. The things that pushed me towards my intellectual development was a sense of grounding in both the traditional Western way of intellectual and personal development combined with an Eastern way of urbanism that was practiced in my family, in my house, my grandmother, grandfather. If you grow up in India, you learn. It's an immersive life. You don't go to school, but you learn it just by being there. I picked up a lot of that, and later I managed to synthesize that into my practice as a physician. And one of the very early in my medical career, I recognized that people are not coming to me because they have a disease. They have something in their life that is preventing them from enjoying life the way they want it, and I have to fix it. They come to me thinking, so I only do three things. I either remove the obstacle preventing them from progressing, mitigate its effect, or teach them how to live with it if I can't do the other two. My entire life has been about helping people overcome the barriers of their circumstance. In this course, I found the physical barriers or the biological barriers were actually minor. The vast majority are actually emotional, psychological, and mental barriers. And that became even more prominent during the pandemic. In the pandemic, our clinic became one of Northern Virginia's largest community COVID testing, treatment, and management centers. In the course of the pandemic, we cared for almost 100,000. We did 100,000 tests, 10% of which were positive, so about 10,000 patients over the course of 2.5 years. What we found was the virus was only a portion of it. The larger perspective was fear. Fear was the greater contagion than virus. And the fear came out of uncertainty and the inability to predict what was likely to happen in the next 5 minutes. One of the insights for me during COVID was that the need to predict is a fundamental requirement for all creatures. What I realized during that time was that even in animals, a tiger that cannot predict where the deer is going to appear is going to go hungry. The deer that cannot predict where the tiger is going to appear is going to get eaten. All animals, from the amoeba onwards to the highest human, are living a life where they are instinctually aware of the unpredictableness of life, and they manage this fundamental anxiety of living by developing coping mechanisms that will predict the probability of their ability to anticipate or somehow control the way life will present in the next 5 minutes.
Very interesting. We all felt the unpredictability of the pandemic, the uncertainty.
Yeah.
It was something that ran through the whole pandemic, no matter where you were. We were all trying to get our arms around it and figure out what was going to happen next. Will it burn itself out, for example? Those kinds of things. So it's a very interesting perspective.
The only function of a leader is to create an environment where their followers, their tribe, their group have some clarity as to how life is going to manifest. The second thing that the leader does is he takes the burden of failure upon his shoulders and leaves the followers free to innovate in a safe zone. He creates a zone of safety. The core environment that a leader creates is a zone of safety by controlling the way life appears, either by prediction or management of risk. His followers are relieved of the burden of navigating life and they are set free to create. Right now, as you and I are talking, we are in an environment where there is absolute chaos due to loss of predictability of how life is going to happen. Crazy taxes, tariffs, uncertainty. What we have is a ship without a captain at its helm. We have a chaos master. We don't have a prediction master. And this fundamental problem, if you look at Genghis Khan or Alexander, or Julius Caesar, the one thing they all did for their tribe was they were brutal for everyone else, but for their tribe, they gave clarity and prediction.
I think that there comes a time when I talk about values alignment. And I think that's, in fact, I would say one of the chief ways to hire people is hire them on values, ensuring that their values are in sync with the organization and vice versa, that the organization's values are in sync with the people you're bringing in. In terms of predictability and the future, I agree that a leader's job is to create an environment where people come to do their best work every single day. I believe that to be absolutely correct. But sometimes you just have to trust the process. You have to look at the process and say, I'm not sure where we're going to go, but I believe that the group I'm part of is going to take me to the place that I want to go to.
Absolutely. Sometimes a leader will make a unilateral decision and demand trust in the process. But the one thing that you want to look at is the leader willing to hold himself accountable for failure? If the leader has a track record where he never holds himself accountable for failure, constantly demands everyone to trust the process, but never holds themselves accountable for failure, then you don't have a leader. You have someone who has might and can demand that he is right or she is right. A leader will have skin in the game.
I agree that a leader needs to be vulnerable.
We don't have leaders like that now. What we have is a bunch of people with power, but we don't have people who are leaders. It may emerge. I don't know. I definitely want it to emerge. And I would love to be proved wrong.
I've had many guests on before that have talked about the importance of the vulnerability of a leader to say, I made a mistake. I didn't get it right. But to say, okay, this is how we're going to fix it.
This is how we're going to set it right. And
right. This is how we're going to set it right. My model of leadership that I started developing 30 years ago is based on one foundation, and that is contribution. We have a problem. Who wants to help us? Who wants to jump in and help us take this initiative forward? And I think that's very important because that allows individual talent to become involved in a collaborative, interdependent, unified action to move the organization or group forward. The leader has to say, hey, I made a mistake and we're going to fix it. I think there has to be a part where a leader is able to do that.
Segueing away from the immediacy of our environment clouds our judgment, and we are not able to have a clear discussion. The other thing I recognized during the pandemic was that people have two aspects to their personality with which they navigate reality. One is a ability to perceive reality in terms of being able to observe. And the second is the ability to create an interpretation of what they observe. Usually, the interpreting aspect of our minds is operating so close to the observation that there is no separation. I call this interpreting part the meaning-making machine. The meaning-making machine has only one function: to predict what is likely to happen and to identify what is advantageous for yourself. And then, of course, position yourself such that you can capture that advantage. And people first do it for themselves, then for their immediate group, their tribe, their team, their organization. In successive layers of the onion skin, you are only doing this predictive meaning-making interpretation. The problem is a lot of the interpretations that you make on observation is past based on memory of previous events, because the brain is fundamentally lazy. It will pull out a cookie cutter example from the past and apply it to the present rather than create a whole new strategy, because it's so much more energetically costly to rethink your strategy each time. In the interest of efficiency, you frequently will pull a tool from your experiential toolbox to use. Most of the time it works. But the cost of that is that you are creating your future based upon the past. So, in many ways, your future will mirror your past and you will project your past upon the future. So, you recreate your past in many flavors and variations into the future. So, you never innovate. To truly innovate, you have to observe and let this meaning making machine create whatever it may, but not reach for it, and allow the observation to reveal new meaning.
Yeah.
That is a skill most people don't develop.
The guy that has impressed me with those kinds of ideas is a guy named Gary Klein, who wrote about something called RPD, recognition primed decision making. He's the guy who really talked about the brain having a file drawer. The brain has a file drawer. And as we go through life, our experiences fill that file drawer.
I call it the Pink Floyd brick in the wall.
Pink Floyd brick in the wall?
You know that song?
I'm not familiar with the song.
Look it up later on.
I will do that.
You will love the song.
So in RPD, recognition prime decision making, when you encounter an issue, you see this in things like police officers and firefighters or nurses. For a firefighter, maybe they've had 10, 12 years of experience. They've been through many fires. The brain goes, wait a minute, I've seen this before, goes to the file drawer, rummages through and says, oh, yeah, it looks like this, sort of like this, and this. And in a blink of an eye, puts those three things together and projects what the solution is on a particular fire or event. Recognition prime decision making is just the way the brain does business. It's automatic and natural. However, when a person or brain encounters some new circumstance, that's where breakthroughs can be made. That's where one has to take a step back and say, wait a minute, we can't use the same methodology we've used in the past. I'll give you a great example of that. ChatGPT or AI systems. AI systems are rewriting many things that perhaps we thought we had the solution. And now we're seeing the solution, or at least the pathway to different solutions presented in different ways. So I wrote about that in my book, Brain Mechanics, and all about learning, because I was on the road to learning. How does the brain learn? And how can you change the learning or influence the learning so that the brain can put different things in the file drawer? Meaning, a story carries two things, logic and meaning. It's very hard to separate in a story. You have to have a certain level of logic, but the logic has to mean something to you at the same time. Stories are so powerful because they bring meaning and logic. It's how people are engaged with those stories. They are involved in an interactive story-making experience that they are able to take new ideas and put it in their file drawer for future use. I'd love to get your response to that. So the first thing is, when I start teaching people about this meaning-making machine that we are born with, I say that the meaning-making machine is as needed and vital as your heart for pumping blood and your digestive system for processing nutrients.
the meaning-making machine, just like your digestive system, has only one purpose: the preservation and propagation of your body. If you didn't have a meaning-making machine, you would die because you would not be able to interact with the world, and the world will just destroy you. So you need the meaning-making machine, but you need to also understand that the meaning-making machine traps you into a rigid set of responses which are past-based, and therefore, just like ChatGPT is RPG on steroids, basically. And the meaning machine is valuable only when you control it and not it controls you. The only way to control your meaning-making machine is to be capable of establishing yourself in the observational field and allow the machine to operate in the background. Don't hold on to the meanings. Cultivate that 3 seconds of separation that naturally exists between observation and meaning. You stand in that space and you'll see, and that is the eye of clarity, because in that space you can see it's the eye of the storm. Around you is whirling all the meanings that your brain is popping up for that particular observational, and you can then choose which meaning you want to give power to that is aligned with the goals of the moment. In that sense, you have true clarity and leadership, and you have true choice. Otherwise, you are just being impelled by your meaning-making machine to go to the easiest option available. To cultivate that requires skill. It requires certain practice. Because right from childhood, our observational capabilities are quickly dulled down. Our teachers will pop up an apple and say, apple, without letting us create an alternative meaning for that round red object. We become conditioned to reaching for the file drawer all the time instead of just observing. You need to also be able to control observation. You can't just go off into a zombie trance in every board meeting, because 80% of your decisions are going to be file drawer decisions, and 20% are going to be observational.
For my money, meaning is the single greatest motivation force on the planet. There's no question about it.
Yes.
For me, if you lose meaning, you die, because
Correct.
you have no sense of your own place in the world, for example.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
happens in Alzheimer's patients. They are
Right.
unable to create new meaning for themselves.
It's interesting. I've had about a half a dozen people on the podcast who have endured unbelievable strife in their life. Unbelievable. 2 went to prison. 2 went to prison, came out of prison and said prison saved their lives. And they had been doing well for themselves, but got mixed up with the wrong people or drugs. And prison saved their lives. They were able to construct new meaning, create a new pathway for the future. And now they're both doing extremely well. So I agree with you. I think one of the most important things that we have today is this ability to, if we take the time to do it, if we don't abdicate our responsibility to do it, to survey the information landscape through the internet, through AI tools, and be open to what we see in order to form new meanings. I'm not trapped by yesterday's ideas and thoughts. I want to be able to see clearly in the new world. And the issue, of course, is it changes so rapidly every day.
Yes.
That it's crazy. Let me ask you this, Ravi. You talk about this 3 seconds, this ability to differentiate in the practices you have. How do you specifically help people stand in that 3 seconds, Will?
I can do that for you now. All right. I want you to pay attention to the contact of your bottom to your chair. focus on that.
Okay.
Keep doing that. I want you to be aware of the way your bottom interacts with the surface of the chair upon which it rests, the feel of it, the pressure, any fabrics, texture that you are able to perceive. And now, come back here. While you were on focus there, where did John Dentico, the idea of John Dentico, it disappears when you are in the observation state. Because the idea of John Dentico is one of the many meanings that you have in your life. The meaning-making machine always shuts off in intense observation. This is the reason why people jump off bridges with a bungee cord. This is the reason why they jump off a cliff on a wingsuit. When life itself is threatened, meaning-making stops and pure observation exists. And it's exhilarating to be in that space. This is the reason why people lose themselves in a kiss. They lose identity. And it is in this freedom of space that they experience pure observation. True creativity and innovation resides in that space. When you start practicing observation, you can use the entire world to practice this. I usually tell people after I take them through the chair exercise to do 5 minutes of observation every day. Get up in the morning. Simple things. Turning on the tap in the sink while you shave. Let the water keep flowing. Put a finger into the flow and focus entirely on the contact of the flow of water over your fingers. Practice this. The Japanese tea ceremony is an observational exercise. It's an exercise in merging observation with activity. Once you recognize that activity and observation are not inimical to each other, because it is right now inimical because you can't do it. Because you're not developed. It's like bicycle, you have no balance. So therefore you're going to fall. But with practice, you develop the ability to observe and stay in action. And out of that, you develop the ability to master the meaning-making machine.
I have always thought that the reason I'm a big fan of the great scholar of mythology, Joseph Campbell. One of Campbell's greatest one-liners was once asked by Bill Moyers in the creation of this PBS special called The Power of Myth. He said, Moyers asked him, "So Joe, is it that we're trying to find the meaning of life?" His response was, "To search for the meaning of life is futile. We search for the experience of being alive." You know, how do I engage with life?
Correct.
And it's very interesting because I've always used bungee jumping as an example. Jumping off a bridge with the bungee attached to you. In that moment, you are experiencing life. As you say, you are coming as close to experiencing life with the exhilaration that anyone muster. Well, I think also your point of being in this quiet space, reflective, if you will. Some people would use that term.
The Buddhist people call it noble silence.
So why don't you talk a little bit about the importance of being in that reflective, quiet space?
So the person in that reflective space does not really reflect too much about the being of it. He just is. It is the people around him that look at him and say, he is in a reflective space and so on. But there's enormous power being in that space. The other thing that happens is when you are in that space and come in contact with people, they get sucked into their observational spaces internally by just being in your presence. They experience expansion and become productive around you because you carry this bubble of observational quietude, if you want to call it. And in that quietude, the chaos of the world dims somewhat. The urgency of many things become less urgent, and people experience space and time as their servants rather than their masters. Right now, everyone lives a harried life, one of constant not enough time, not enough love, not enough wealth, not enough health. And in that quiet space, there is never any lack of resources because all resources emerge from that quiet space. And it becomes very easy to tap into productiveness. And you just kind of dance through life because there's no pressure.
It's very interesting. I've always thought that many people are moving so rapidly through life because they're trying to escape from their past. What they don't know is, and they'll find out eventually, you can only run so fast.
Yeah.
And after a while, it's going to catch up to you.
Yep.
And you're going to have to deal with it and face it and walk the fire through it to get to the other side. So that's always been my observation of living a hurried life. If you don't slow down and take the time to invest in your own self, in thought, I don't know how much people are thinking nowadays. They react, they respond, as opposed to actually taking the time to say, let me think through this. I need some time to just be with this idea or be with this thought in order for me to move forward. What do you think?
The ability to carry your own bubble of quietude around you allows you the space to think and let life unravel in your internal space. The other thing is it removes urgency of having to respond immediately to everything. There are a lot of people who are so one of the things that I try to tell people is this American macho attitude of chest thumping, testosterone, grind your way through life. I said, all you're going to do is sandpaper yourself out of existence. You're not going to achieve anything. Life is not a constant battle. It is a battle if you're always going to fight the current. But if you flow with it, you'll be amazed how easy it is to win.
Yeah.
It's so easy to win that it feels like cheating.
I think that you have to understand how to be with it. You have to understand how to be with life.
It's the being of things that people are lost in.
What comes to mind when you talk about this instantaneous response kind of thing is people texting. If you don't respond immediately, does that send the message that you don't care?
No.
I guess it does to some people. If I'm behind the wheel of a car, if I don't respond immediately, people will think I've dropped off the face of the earth or I don't care. It's like, you calm down. Just calm down. Let's start there. Well, we're getting close to the end, Ravi. I'll ask you my question as we get close to the end. If you had a magic wand and you could change anything that you deal with in the world and you see it in your work life, what would that issue be and why did you choose that?
Now, if I had a magic wand, I would seek myself to be grounded in observation so unshakably that anyone who comes in my presence would get grounded the same rootedness that I experience. Any disturbance that people experience when they come in my life is due to the fact that at that moment, the depth of my own anchoring in observation is not sufficient to anchor them. So all I need is to anchor myself unshakably.
Yeah, the law of attraction.
Yes, yeah, that would be my magic wand.
That's a good one. And I wish you great success in that. So listen, Ravi, thank you so very much for being here with me today. I truly appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
I wish you all the success in the future. Good luck to you, and thank you again.